What is up, everyone, and welcome back to Ace Attorney. My name is Isaiah, and I will be your public appointed defendant for the evening. Right now, we are currently in trial. We just finished up with Meekins on Friday, and we're in a recess, so we should be going into the second part of the trial here momentarily. So, without any further ado, let's get it going.
There's no stopping you, is there, Mr. Wright?
What do you mean?
You called for Jake Marshall. It seems you figured everything out.
I'm glad you think that.
Anna, you're the one here who knows everything. Emma. You always know everything. Why don't you just tell us? Mr. Wright is trying his hardest to protect you.
I don't recall ever asking for his protection.
How can you be so cold?
Emma and Lana are having a little bit of an issue here.
Don't you trust us? Don't you trust me?
I hope I'm not interrupting anything, pals. Hey, it's Gumshoe. That man always brightens up my day. Yeah, guess I am. Yeah, come back later. Okay, bud, that might be best. Wait, Detective Gumshoe, what do you want? What is it? You got a lot of nerve, pal. Making a detective run all around while on duty. And to top it off, come here. I've seen happier people at funerals.
Sorry, Detective.
You better be, pal. Hey! I didn't see you in there, Chief Prosecutor Sky.
That's okay. So, what have you brought? Have you brought what I asked?
No. Oh. You mean this, right?
My apologies, Detective. Due to my present circumstances, I was forced to use Mr. Wright's name when making my request.
My name? What about my name? Yeah, never in a million years would I have thought it was you who asked me. Could I bother you to bring in the SL9 incident files? I'll need them by noon. Talk about crazy. SL9, huh? So this is what it comes down to.
I thought Mr. Wright might need them, so I had them brought here. Here, you might do well with these or something.
I can't believe you. The chief prosecutor were a witness in that case. This guy was a witness. Interesting. Joe Drake killing, solved 2 years ago. Take it from me. You don't want anything to do with serial murders. Yeah, what? Now I brought you your stuff, you're just gonna ignore me? Sorry, Gumshoe. It's not me. It's just, Emma's name is in there. Shocking.
What? My name's in there? I don't know, unless,
It was her. It was her!
No, it couldn't be. Lana, this SL9 incident, is that... That's the classification number the police filed it under. 2 years ago, the rest of the world knew it as Joe Dark. Oh, Joe Dark. Joe Dark. No, Lana, that's over with. No.
Oh, she's gone. She gone. Yeah, you know what? I just remembered. I gotta be somewhere. Sorry, pal, but I'm out of here.
Jake Marshall, Angel Starr, Damon Gant, Miles Edgeworth. Not to mention Lana and Emma. Everyone involved in this case is connected to those killings 2 years ago.
Can't be a coincidence. There's no such thing as coincidence. Alright, time to back to the trial. Let's get it. I'm back to my long hair, everyone, so enjoy. Oh, to be continued. Okay, so I guess I could have just pushed through to that part in Friday's video, but we're going to go ahead and just keep the ball rolling here. I think I already did that. Alright, here we go. Bah! The court will now reconvene for the trial of Miss Lana Sky. Emma didn't come back. She gone.
Allow me to call the witness to the stand. The officer in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day of the crime.
Oh, there he is. Come on, let's hit that music.
Witness, please state your name and occupation.
Me, partner? I'm just a man, same as you, wandering the trails of civilization.
Occasionally helping the elderly cross intersections when needed. Yes, we get it.
Oh, Edgeworth's so cold.
Oh, I know, you're a patrolman.
As for my name, if you listen hard enough, you can hear the howling wind calling it out.
To be exact, it's Jake Marshall, Your Honor.
Howling wind, okay.
Now, Mr. Marshall, let me ask you something. You were in charge of guarding the evidence room on the day the crime took place. Is this correct?
According to the papers, partner. What do you mean?
A desperado soul is as boundless as the desert sands. No paper can sum it up.
Maybe it's best we get on with this quickly. Please share with us your testimony of the day of the crime. In plain old English.
Yeah, none of that cowboy dialect, bud. Not today.
My job was to keep a wary eye on that bone orchard. They said I was supposed to make rounds 3 times a day, but that ain't my style. Besides, the room's protected by 2 security systems anyway. If I remember right, I was at a street-side saloon at the time it went down. I'm just an innocent traveling man, so if you're out of ammo, it's the time I hit the trail.
I can't say I particularly care for your attitude.
I can't say I care for your beer, but you don't see me complaining.
Ooh, Zinger. What do you mean by 2 security systems?
I mean security cameras and the ID card reader. Reckon even a cowpoke like you knows about those.
Yes, well, what about the fingerprint activated locks on the evidence lockers? What about those?
Fingerprint activated locks? What kind of newfangled doohickeys are them?
Okay.
It's not that good with machines or with following orders. Everyone's got their weaknesses now, don't they, Mr. Prosecutor?
This one seems like trouble. Okay, Mr. Wright, he's all yours.
Oh, the judge is finally with me. He doesn't like him either. Actually, I do like him. Keep a wary eye on the bone orchard. How exactly you keep an eye on the evidence room?
I just made sure nothing moved in security camera monitor. The room's so still, even time dies in there. Just caretaker in here couldn't have heard the recordings. Videos of nothing aren't that useful. When that time will come, I'd erase tape.
Okay, if nothing unusual is recorded, tapes to be erased every 6 hours. Okay, each time you erase tape, feel like erasing part of your life. Weird. This guy's a flair for the dramatic, but isn't going to do him any good. So in actuality, you don't physically enter the evidence room. Making around 3 times a day aren't your style, huh? But you made your rounds on the day of the crime, right?
Ain't you heard all that word I said, partner? Told you that ain't my style.
Okay.
So, Officer Marshall, on the day of the crime.
Just between you and me, I didn't set foot in the evidence room that day.
Okay.
But do you know anything stuck about the rubber glove stuck in the victim's locker?
Sorry, partner, can't say I do. Haven't been in that crypt in weeks.
Okay. 2 security systems. Marshall's voice is getting my throat, so I'm just going to read it in a regular redneck accent. Of course, back in the day, my locker was a gold mine of evidence. And yet you don't know anything about the fingerprint locking mechanism. Sorry, partner, I ain't good with machines. I couldn't even tell you how a bike works. Well, you just get on it and you pedal. The sensors on the locker handle cannot be seen. It's well known that some detectives are unaware of their presence. Okay.
Can you write doesn't seem to be relevant to the crime?
Can you tell us what you were doing when the crime took place? Street-side saloon at the time it went down. Why? Why were you not at work? I was eating spaghetti. Not even Angel Steak can beat that parlor's Vongoli sepia pasta. What?
Do you mean to tell us you abandoned your police duties to eat some noodles?
Not all desperados eat tacos, partner.
Not what I meant. I hope this at least has taught you a lesson.
Strange. It's usually what Edgeworth says. Did you not want to raise this year? Out of ammo, Officer Marshall? That's right, partner, as you call it, evidence. If you plan to pin me to this crime, you better draw. Otherwise, you're just wasting my time. My steel horse is waiting to carry me back west into the sunset.
One thing seems clear. Despite being responsible for guarding the evidence room, the witness doesn't appear to have seen anything.
Texans don't take orders from anyone. Everyone knows that. Oh, gosh. The whole Texas thing. Here we go. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. We have his fingerprints. At a street side saloon. So we can present that. Fingerprints prove he was there, right? Yeah. Officer Marshall, doesn't it strike you as odd? That is, you being called in to testify like this? After all, you weren't in the security room at the time of the crime.
Yet you dragged me down here. Explain yourself, partner.
It's quite simple. There was a very large trail behind at the scene, or to be exact, a handprint.
Written real good, partner. Like I said, I'm the caretaker of that crypt. I pay my respects. I just make my rounds about once a month. It's only natural my fingerprints would be in there.
But with blood on it? I only wish it were, officer. But you see, your fingerprints were covered in blood. Those are really weird boot heels.
What's the meaning of this? Your bloodstained fingerprints were at the crime scene?
The blood was wiped away. However, a luminol test clearly revealed this. Well, Officer Marshall?
Seems to me there ain't a person in this room with a head on his shoulders.
I take you have an explanation then, Officer Marshall.
About the blood-stained fingerprints?
Very well, you may begin your testimony about your fingerprints found at the scene of the crime.
Alright, let's hear it. Better be good.
Like I said, it's only natural for my fingerprints to be in that evidence room. One of them just happened to be at the same place as the blood-stained handprint. The murderer touched the locker where my fingerprint was by chance. The bloodstain and the fingerprint are completely unrelated. Or didn't you know the murderer was wearing gloves? See? I had nothing to do with it.
I think he's lying.
The witness' explanation appears valid, although there's room for doubt.
Life wouldn't be fun without any doubt, partner.
The defense may now cross-examine the witness.
Okay. Alright, let's hear it. Press, because that's what we do here. It's because, how did you put it, pay your respects once a month?
Yeah, that's right, that and one more thing. That locker happened to be mine.
What? What do you mean?
I mean what I said. That's the locker I used when I was a detective. Locker I still use. All that's in there now, though, is a heap of broken dreams. It'd be strange my prints weren't all over that locker. Apparently his fingerprint data was never removed from that locker's programming. He must have been using the fingerprint lock all this time without ever knowing it. One of them happening at the same time. Bloodstained handprint, okay. So then what about the bloody handprint? Wasn't mine. It's no mystery.
Please explain.
Yes, please explain. My locker is covered with my fingerprints. Just so happened the murderer touched the locker where my fingerprint was by chance. The chances of that happening are 1,000,000 to 1. On the contrary, one could argue just the opposite. The chances of that not happening are 1,000,000 to 1. Get one thing straight, partner. You ain't going to get no reward from me with a mere fingerprint. You want to know why? Unrelated? They're as different as night and day. Kind of like cereal and cereal, spelled with an S. What's it got to do with breakfast, but the other is a type of murder? Or a number.
He's right, although seemingly alike, they're totally different.
Don't see what homonyms has to do with this. Didn't you know the murderer was wearing gloves? How did you know the murderer was wearing gloves? How do you know that? Thank you, Phoenix.
I may be a loner, but I still do my job. I keep up on the reports. There was a blood stain at the scene, thought to be left by the murderer.
That's right. It was found on Detective Gumshoe's locker.
However, no fingerprints were detected on that handprint.
Oh, yeah.
So that would mean the murderer wearing gloves happened to place their hand on top of Officer Marshall's fingerprint.
That's the only logical conclusion. Are you starting to get the picture, partner? The picture. This seal of blood in the desert is just food for the buzzards. There's only one reality, and that's this. Security tape. So long as my trail isn't in there, you can't say otherwise.
So getting us anywhere, Mr. Wright. Please consider carefully where you're going with this cross-examination.
Okay. Okay.
Too bad it wasn't me in that video. Right, partner?
We don't know it wasn't you.
What do you mean by that? You want me to tie to this crime, isn't that right, partner? If so, that video is the only direct evidence you have.
But that video is next to useless. It's full of blind spots.
Blind spots.
Places you can't see.
The camera's panning back and forth. The floor isn't shown. If someone was familiar with the camera's position, they could leave the room without being caught on tape. Easy. We don't have time for your speculations, Mr. Wright.
Well, Mr. Wright, if you can show us evidence in this video that indicates Officer Marshall was present, please do so now.
Alright, let's do it. Very well, allow me to point out your mistake, Officer Marshall. Tread carefully, Mr. Wright, you might wind up being the one making the mistake. In all reality, I have no idea what evidence we have that would prove Marshall was there. But, I'm going to pause that and check the court record. I'm going to look at this. Perpetrator is Joe Dart. Serial murder. Sentenced to death. He's dead. Victims: Edward Jones, Ethan Kirby, Jed Bates, Jason Knight, Rachel Moss, Neil Marshall. Neil Marshall? That's interesting. Head investigator Bruce Gibbon, Jake Marshall, Angel Starr. That is interesting. That will probably be important later. Alright, let's keep playing it. I wonder if his light is on. That's kind of what I'm going for here. Not on. Not on. Not on. Yeah, no lights on here. No. 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 Wait, now there's something in there. Because that's his locker, right? Because there's something in there at the very end of the video. Let's see. There it is. That's got to be it. Bring our attention back to the security camera. It's a mistake I'm afraid you'll soon not forget, Officer Marshall.
The days are short in Texas, and so are our tempers. Just tell me what you have to say in 8 words or less.
I can. Very well. You can clearly be seen in this. You can clearly be seen in this video. 8 words, baby.
Exactly 8 words, not bad, partner.
Haha, he even knew. He picked it out. The key lies in a certain locker shown in the video. This bad boy right here. That locker with the white claw sticking out, that was a witness's, I believe. Now then, let's rewind the video a bit.
Oh, the white cloth, it's gone. What's the meaning of this, Officer Marshall?
When the crime took place, the white cloth wasn't there. Duh. Then it suddenly appeared. There's only one explanation. Officer Marshall, you were in the evidence room at the time of the crime. What's more, you opened your locker when the camera was turned away.
Order, order! Would seem that's the only
Hold your horses. Sorry, partner, but you got the wrong man.
How?
Through the locker? So what if my locker was open? That don't mean I'm the one who opened it. Murder needed to hide something, so he opened the locker and stuck it in. Not my fault he happened to choose mine. While everyone's staring at me like I'm a wanted man. This guy isn't just playing dumb. He really doesn't know. You're the only person who can open that particular locker. Oh yeah? I call your bluff. You say open that locker? Now prove it. Well, I mean, I can just present this, right? Like, just be like, well, you can, only the person with these signed prints can open it. A fingerprint sensor? We talked about this earlier today. Lockers can only be opened by the detectives that they belong to. What kind of crazy talk is this? Well, Detective Gumshoe did mention something about this. In any case, the locks aren't that obvious. There are even some people on the force that don't know about the fingerprint locks. Oh man, it feels so good to catch someone in a lie. So, Sheriff, what do you have to say in 8 words or less? Ooh, hit him back with his own zinger. You gotta love it. These some jerky. I only got 1 word for it, partner. No! What? He's have a heart attack or something?
Order. Order! Well, just explain yourself.
This is a joke. It's the worst I've ever heard. I assure you, this is no joke, Officer Marshall. Now then, please tell us what you were doing in the evidence room at the time of the crime.
Orley, please answer the question.
What? Was he now a bullfighter? I love you, Phoenix. That's alright, Officer Marshall. I believe we can figure the rest out from here.
We can.
Have a look at these floor plans. There is no place for someone to hide in the evidence room. Yet Officer Meekins didn't see Officer Marshall.
Thought so, then where was the witness?
It seems Mr. Wright has an answer. That's right, the only possible conclusion.
Well then, let's hear it. Where was Officer Marshall at the time of the crime?
He was right here. Officer Marshall was standing right here. He was...
But that's where the victim, Detective Goodman, was.
Not so. Correct, unless the man wasn't Detective Goodman. I believe the victim in the video is Officer Marshall. It was you dressed up like Detective Goodman. That's preposterous. Officer Meekins witnessed the detective at the crime scene. Once he saw the man's face, he'd know for sure. May I point out, though, that Officer Meekins did not know Detective Goodman. He also testified about the man's reaction when confronted.
When I entered the evidence room, I asked him to show his card, sir.
Okay, what'd he say?
He suddenly pulled a knife on me.
Something about the officer's story puzzled me. If the man had his ID card, why didn't he just show it? Right?
Yes, he would have needed to enter the evidence room, so he must have been carrying it.
The answer is simple. He couldn't show it because he didn't have it. You can see Detective Goodman's picture is on his ID card.
Oh, I get it.
If he showed that, his cover would have been blown. Oh, right, duh. He did have it. Officer Meekins would have realized the man wasn't Detective Goodman. Do you have anything to say to this, Officer Marshall? You got quite an imagination, partner. We got a term for that. It's called circumstantial evidence. Circumstantial evidence? He's still denying it. You're going to have to do better than that to break a detective. Unless you have hard evidence proving I dressed up as a victim.
Can't say particularly careful and cooperative disposition. Well, Mr. Wright, do you have any evidence proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that Officer Marshall dressed up as the victim?
Well, no, of course not. I can see the fear in your eyes, partner. Seems you're the one who couldn't take the desert heat. Great. So obvious. Come on. It looks like your lack of experience has finally been exposed. I'll pass on to you what someone told me when I was just starting out. When you've run into a wall with no place to go, return to the basics. The basics. What do you mean, Edgeworth? For me, that would be what Mia used to tell me.
Yay, Mia's here.
Phoenix, try thinking outside the box.
Thank you, Mia. I shouldn't look for proof that Officer Marshall's in disguise. Rather, I should look for evidence that came about because he was in disguise. Okay, so we're not trying to find evidence that he was dressed up as Goodman. What we need to do is find evidence that happened because he was dressed as Goodman. Okay. Why do you think this lock was opened in the first place?
What do you mean?
There's no reason for Officer Marshall to open his lock at the time of the crime. Yet he did, despite the chance it might be discovered later, as it has been. Which means he didn't originally plan to open his locker. According to the defense's argument, Officer Jake Marshall dressed up as Detective Goodman at the time of the crime. Then after the crime was committed, he opened his own locker floor for some unknown reason. The fact that a white cloth sticking out of the locker seems to indicate that he opened it in order to put the cloth inside.
So, just what exactly is this piece of cloth?
Perhaps the video key is the key to all our unanswered questions. Okay. Back to the video. Why the witness had to open the locker. So it seems pretty obvious that we need to watch this close. We need to watch this close. We need to watch this close because that will tell us what we need to know. I bet that something has came off of his jacket during the fight. There's a glove. So we know Goodman wears white. Okay, here comes Meekins. Okay, here he is. Show me your ID card. Give me your ID card, bud. Oh, and he gets slashed. Right there on the hand. Here comes Meekins. He don't get him. It has to be that right there. It has to be that. Because his blood would give away the fact that he was dressed as Meekins. Now let's see if we can see him again after this, because I can't remember. No, we can't. Okay. That has to be it, though. He had to have taken that off. Ripped that part of the jacket off. It's got to be it. For some reason, you disguised yourself as Detective Goodman and entered the evidence room. Though I don't know what to end. To what end? Yet. However, something unexpected happened. Officer Meekins barged in on you. When asked to show your ID card, you pulled a knife on him. However, Officer Meekins panicked. The white coat you were wearing was soiled with blood. Bloody white coat. You couldn't just walk out like that, so you hid the coat in your locker.
Not bad, partner.
He admits to it.
Now then, Officer Marshall, are you ready to tell us the truth?
Looks like I underestimated y'all. I hope you're happy now, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, if you were only half as persistent then as you are today, we all wouldn't have to be here now, would we?
Alright, tell us what you did. Tell us what you know.
Seems the time has come.
Alright, here we go. It's confession time.
I had to do it that day. Couldn't just stand by and let it die. I stole Detective's ID and dressed like him. I planned to take out the evidence. Was expecting Officer Meekins. I knocked him out and managed to escape. Knew which areas wouldn't be caught on camera.
There wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:15.
So the supposed victim was really you.
But there's one thing I still don't understand. Traces of large quantity of blood were found on the floor of the evidence room. If no one was murdered, then how could that be? Officer Meekins managed to cut his own hand. My guess is he's the donor.
There's way too much blood for such a small donation. It's like he's still lying. Let what die? When you say it, you mean SL9.
June have to ask, partner.
The SL9 incident.
2 years have passed since that case was closed. It was going to completely end with transferal that day.
Not if I have anything to do with it. That incident's not over. What do you hope to accomplish by sneaking in the evidence room?
When a case is closed, only the case's lead detective can look through the evidence.
I want to have one look at it myself one more time. No matter what the cost. I don't care what anyone says, partner. That case is mine.
Officer Marshall wasn't in charge of that investigation. Why does he care so much?
That day is my last chance. That's why I stole the ID card. Why'd you disguise yourself as Detective Goodman?
If I didn't make it look like Goodman was carrying out the evidence transferal, I'd be arrested for stealing evidence which wouldn't get me anywhere.
So you did to fool the security camera. On the detective's ID card. I stole that the morning of the incident. That really was why Goodman started filling out that lost item report. I returned his ID card. I left it on the floor in the prosecutor's office parking lot.
So essentially, you managed to succeed despite your lack of foresight.
What do you mean, partner?
I mean the fingerprint-activated lock, of course. No matter how well you disguise yourself, you can't change your fingerprints. Under normal circumstances, you wouldn't have been able to open that locker yourself.
But he could because the rubber glove just happened to get stuck in the door.
That means Detective Goodman must have opened the locker before Officer Marshall.
You pulled a knife on Officer Meekins and tried to drive him off?
As you say, it's a little surprise. I only planned on being in the evidence room for no more than 5 minutes. Didn't think anyone would actually come in during that short time.
Officer Meekins certainly is a 1 in a million type of person, mistaking a detective for an intruder and demanding to be shown his ID.
I have to think a little more about his race this year.
When did Edgeworth get so much influence?
Anyway, he threw himself at me and I ended up cutting him slightly.
I'm sorry it had to turn out that way. Me knocking him out and everything. By the way, what happened to your knife?
Oh, you mean this one?
That's the one.
So you knocked Officer Meekins out and...
So you did your research beforehand.
Does you go in the desert unprepared, don't live long, partner? I didn't think it'd make a difference, though. Security tape is erased every 6 hours. If all gone as planned, no footage would have been left.
However,
I hear in my mouth.
You bloodied your coat and you'll struggle with Officer Meekins. Someone was in the security room when I came out, the jig would have been up. I opened my locker and stashed it in there.
What was Officer Meekins doing during that time?
What else? He was sleeping like a baby.
So what you're saying is, on that day,
there was no murder. But the blood found at the scene certainly indicates a crime took place.
What, are you blind? The victim shown on that tape is me, and I'm not dead yet, partner. So you stole the evidence from the locker. Actually, no, I didn't.
Why not?
When I opened the locker, the evidence is already gone.
Mr. Edgeworth, where is that evidence?
It's still missing, Your Honor.
Detective Goodman's locker was already empty. Someone else stole the evidence. Officer Marshall, may I ask you one thing?
Fire away, partner. It's a free country. Just remember, I'm also free to decide whether or not to answer.
No, you're not. You're on the stand. This is no small offense.
Moreover, you're an officer yourself. This will have serious consequences. It can't just be forgiven with a simple cut in salary.
Okay.
Like I said, this isn't your case. This one is mine. And I'll do anything it takes to get an answer I'm satisfied with.
The witness has an unusual amount of zeal. Let's hear more.
I just can't forget the SL9 incident. You know why?
Because your dad was one of the ones killed. I know why.
That case was solved 2 years ago.
That's the reason the evidence was stored in the evidence room.
Joe Dock was convicted for his crimes. Only I can say for sure is he deserved his sentence.
I remember the Joe Dock case. Involved serial murders, didn't it?
I don't intend to complain about how it turned out. But there's something that still bothers me. Something that went down that trial. Something no one will talk about.
What happened?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to find out.
What's so concerned with that incident? Maybe I should present with him what I think his real reason is. I have a feeling he'd wind up here sooner or later. Everyone involved here is related in some way to that case. Better take another look at the files. I know exactly why. Because one of your relatives was killed. Neil Marshall. Officer Marshall, I think I understand. I think I know why you care so much about the SL9 incident.
Sounds like you've been sipping too much cactus juice, partner.
I have the SL9 incident file right here. The name Marshall is mentioned in here. In a list of murder victims. Neil Marshall. Are you related to this man?
Neil Marshall? Yeah, I'm sure you heard the name. 2 years ago, he received the same lousy prosecutor award you got.
What? A prosecutor?
You're talking about the King of Prosecutors Award.
No, I meant Prosecutor Neil Marshall. He handled the SL9 case before I did.
That's right. He was killed, and the case fell into your hands.
What's his relation to you?
He was my brother. Oh, I'm sorry. He was investigating the murder of Damon Gant, then Deputy Chief of Police.
The group of detectives I was part of worked under him. We were desperate to prosecute the killer. Joe Dark. My brother fought Dark and was killed. That was the first time Dark ever left behind any evidence. That was all we needed.
Wow. That's sad. He was arraigned and incarcerated. The case was finally closed. At least according to the public records.
What do you mean?
My brother couldn't have been killed by Joe Dark. I knew my brother better than anyone. No one could have beaten him in a fight. And that's it. That's your reason for your insane actions. There's more to my brother's death than what the records say. No matter how much you try to hide it, you can't fool me. So it sounds like we're now investigating two cases.
Or at least one thing's for certain. Now we know what happened at the police department on the day of the crime.
That was the last day the SL9 case could be reopened. Not satisfied with the resolution, Officer Marshall planned to steal the evidence. Disguising himself as Detective Goodman, he entered the evidence room. Officer Meekins confronted him, so he rendered him unconscious and fled. Yes, his mystery has finally been cleared up. No murder took place at the police department that day. The things that happened by chance never cease to amaze. At exactly the same time as the murder at the prosecutor's office, this fake murder was going on at the police department. Chance. It's got to be more than... There's no coincidences.
So if no one was murdered at the police department on the day of the crime, that means the murder in the prosecutor's office lot. The prosecutor's parking lot was the real one.
Which in turn mean only one person could have committed the crime. Chief Prosecutor Lana Skye. Here we go, back on it. But we didn't get to a verdict. Which is why we examined the incident at the police department today. There's only one reason the defendant was not convicted yesterday. There remained the mystery of the simultaneous murder at the police department.
Seems to me this boy's got the draw on you, partner.
All the mysteries at the police department have been resolved, no doubt about it. A sole murder took place at the prosecutor's office, and the only suspect is Lana Skye. And the testimony of one Miss Angel Starr is completely incontestable. If you have a response, make it a single word or less. My response? Objection. And I rest my case. Oh my gosh, I love Edgeworth. What a silly goose.
Seems this trial has reached its conclusion. There's no room for doubt.
Well done, Mr. Wright. Thanks to you, I didn't need to waste my time disproving the alleged murder at the police department. No doubt what I proved today is true. The apparent murder on security camera's tape really was fake, but I didn't realize that would end up proving Lana guilty.
Now then, the time of the verdict has arrived. This court finds the defendant.
Someone's gonna run in? Hold it. There it is. It's Emma!
Your Honor,
Emma.
the defense has an objection, a scientific objection, right?
What do you mean, right?
Mr. Wright, are you this girl's guardian?
Your Honor? No?
Please, Your Honor, all I'm asking is for a minute of your time. Please hear me out. Mr. Edgeworth, please.
I don't want to leave any loose ends. You want a minute? I'll give you 3. Alright.
I was kind of in shock. I mean, finding out the SL9 incident referred to the Joe Dart killings.
Now that she mentions it, the names of both Sky sisters were in that file.
But that's when I figured it out. I mean, what Officer Marshall was trying to do that day. So I knew his fingerprint had nothing to do with the crime. That was only one thing, the other handprint.
And the traces of blood found on Detective Gumshoe's locker. But no fingerprints were found on it, right?
No, but I figured if I examined it scientifically, I'd be sure to find a clue. So I ran over there and looked at it again.
Can you get in there?
No.
She didn't find anything.
Sorry, I guess I'm not much of a scientific investigator after all.
No, I guess not. Is that all?
Please don't be mad, I'm just a high school student.
That's okay. I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed.
But Mr. Wright, those traces of blood are the only clue we have. If we can't find something wrong with them, please, Mr. Wright, you're a professional. If anyone can save Lana, it's you.
Me? Oh boy.
Time's up. Now then, Mr. Wright, report the incident to the police department. Does any reasonable doubt remain?
It appears the defense is troubled by the other blood mark.
Look at the floor plans. A handprint was discovered around here. Is there a problem with this?
Mr. Wright, I'm sorry I can't be of more use, but still, if you can't find anything wrong with that blood mark, Lana will be...
If you answer my question, Mr. Wright, we don't have all day.
What could be wrong with the handprint on Detective Gumshoe's locker?
I object.
The handprint left at the crime scene clearly shows a contradiction.
The only thing that seems clear is your grasping, Mr. Wright. You're staring pretty intently at those floor plans. Tell me, is there a problem with them?
Take a good look at these floor plans. Something is missing.
Missing? You mean something hasn't been drawn on them?
Yeah, something that, when drawn, will completely change the meaning of the blood mark.
I pray the defense isn't simply trying to buy time. Very well, Mr. Wright.
With all this evidence here, there's got to be something I can use. What about the camera? It's right in view of the camera. That has to be it.
As I say back west, even a blind man can hit with buckshot. That is, as long as he's facing general direction.
It seems Mr. Wright's not sure which direction to face. It's no use. The more evidence there is, the greater the chance of me being wrong.
Just calm down, Mr. Wright. Try to remember what the evidence room was like on the day of the crime.
Look at the footage. Well, the blue badger's right in the way. What if I present the blue badger? That might be kind of silly, but like...
What about that piece of plywood?
The blue badger, mascot of the police force, you know. Defender of truth, guardian of proof, you know.
Explain yourself, Mr. Wright.
Please look at the floor plans of the crime scene. The blue badger's not here.
So
watch what happens when we put him in. This is where he was dancing at the time of the crime.
Well, what?
That's right. So long as the blue badger is dancing here, it would be impossible to place a handprint at this spot on the locker.
So that means, what does that mean?
It means it can't be done.
Blood traces were undeniably found on that locker.
Don't look at me, I didn't put it there.
Mr. Wright, think it through scientifically. On that afternoon... Officer Meekins was the one who brought the blue badger to the evidence room, right? After he put it down, it would be impossible to leave a handprint on that locker.
So that must mean this blood mark was left there before the blue badge was brought in.
Just one moment. I will not allow such far-fetched balderdash in my courtroom.
It may sound far-fetched, Your Honor, but it's the only possible explanation, and the evidence lines up. On February 21st, in the police department's evidence room, blood was spilled not once, but twice. But how? One time was captured on this tape taken by a security camera. Officer Meekins cut his hand, from which a trivial amount of blood fell. Problem is the other time. Man, this case is so good. There's so many twists. Someone bled prior to the struggle shown on this tape. It had to have been Detective Goodman when he was really murdered. What? That's ridiculous. I refuse to accept your absurd claim. The murder betrayed in the security tape has been proven to be a fake. However, that does not explain the blood mark found on the locker. So then, assuming this murder you purport to really happen, when did it take place? Demand you show evidence that proves when it occurred. When did the first incident occur?
To summarize, the defense claims that prior to Officer Meekins being cut by Jake Marshall, who was posing as Detective Goodman, another incident took place in that evidence room.
That's right. The blood mark on the locker proves this.
Very well, then tell us, when did this first incident occur? Mr. Edgeworth said proof must be presented.
Proof that shows when the murder took place. Only one piece of evidence I can show that.
Now then, the defense please present its evidence.
It's gotta be this right here. If the crime took place inside the evidence room, the killer would have had to enter it. In order to do so, an ID card would have been required. Right. Officer Meekins brought the Blue Badger panel into the evidence room at, let's see here, 4:50.
Oh, Judge, if the crime took place before that time, then it would be 4:40. Miles Edgeworth, just what have you done?
Never would have figured you had the nerve, boy.
Drop the act, witness. It does take a lot of thought to figure out it couldn't have been me.
Nope, I ain't getting it.
I'm afraid I don't understand either.
It's clear from the luminol test the blood was there. However, when the second crime took place, both Officer Meekins and Officer Marshall failed to notice the blood. That means the blood wiped away from the first crime was wiped away by the real murderer. I would have had just 10 minutes to murder the victim, carry his body away, and clean up the blood. Unfortunately, that's physically impossible.
That would mean the crime must have taken place before Mr. Edgeworth entered the evidence room.
Let's look at the chart again. Only one other card number remaining, 77777. You get the picture.
Talk about a lucky number.
But wait, that doesn't make sense. How could Detective Goodman have entered the evidence room?
So there's no record of his card being used beforehand. He must have entered along with the real murderer. That's the only plausible explanation. He went in with 7777 and so forth.
Mr. Edgeworth, please look into this ASAP. Find out whose ID number is 7.
It's 1 7 too many, Your Honor. Fortunately, I'm unable to let the owner of that ID card, at least at present.
What? Explain yourself, son.
The ID number 7 belongs to someone with the rank of captain or higher, someone who is so-called executive officer, Gant. We don't have the authority to inquire into such a person's identity. It's Gant. But that's ridiculous. Just how... Not finished talking, Mr. Wright. There's one situation in which we can be granted such authority. If an official charge filed against an executive is accepted. An official charge.
You're all like, aren't you? Your cover-ups and your forgeries. That's how the prosecutor's office operates.
I take pride in my work, Officer Marshall. I would appreciate if you would keep your slander to yourself.
Slander, is it? Okay. Let me ask a question. Not to you, to her, the defendant sitting over there. Your own little executive. Lana.
Don't be stupid. She's been charged with murder. Of course we've looked her up, her ID number, and it's not 7.
Don't play me for a fool, partner. It's not what I want to ask.
All I want to know is one thing about that incident.
Answer me this, Chief Prosecutor.
In that trial 2 years ago, did you really only use legitimate evidence?
Do you need the witness to repeat his question, Chief Prosecutor?
I heard him fine, Mr. Edgeworth.
2 years ago, I was in charge of the prosecution for that trial. At the time, we
felt the powerlessness of the law. At least, I did.
Lana,
I became a prosecutor in order to suppress crime with the law. But before I realized it, we were the ones being suppressed by the law.
I'll ask you again, Chief Prosecutor. During that trial 2 years ago, did you really present all the evidence in court? Can you look me, an investigator in that crime, in the eye and say that you did? Chief Prosecutor, you didn't.
I don't have to, Officer Marshall.
Well, why won't you answer him?
Drastic crimes require drastic measures. That's just the way it is. We did what we had to, in order for him to get the verdict he deserved. But Lana...
Even it involved forging evidence. Ooh. See? That's what I'm talking about. No.
Law's remarks caused such a stir.
Whoop. It all... And it... I missed that part. Wow. That was kind of game-changing. I don't know what this means for what's going on next, but I am very excited to find out. That was kind of nuts. But yeah, that's going to wrap up. We've been at it for a while. So thanks everyone for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. And I will see you on Friday to continue this roller coaster of a case. I'll catch you guys then.